Okay, what do we got? We got the two types of gamers: honers versus innovators. Oh, baby.
In fighting games, some characters have an alternate stance which can change their moveset and abilities in the middle of a match. These characters are complex because it can be like learning two characters in one.
Oh,
But Lei
yeah.
Wulong has
Bro, back in the day, in the high school days, for me, what was it? Me and my buddy were playing Tekken. And what did he play? My buddy Kyle, he played Steve, the dude with like the short gray hair. And he was really good at him. But I chose, who was it? Lei Wulong, like the Jackie Chan guy, like the cop that was like he could like mess around with his stances, like he could do this crane thing, he could do drunken style, he had like a phoenix style, and it was the hardest freaking shit. Like these were some of the best times, for me anyway. Uh, like during my like heyday in fighting games, because it was just me and my buddy going back and forth for like 50 rounds in a row, and each round is like, what was it, like best of two, best of three, or something like that. Most of the time, he would just like trounce me, but with my little like high school brain, I couldn't figure out why. But if I were to put a percentage on it, I would have to say he won like 70 to 80% of the matches, and I won the other 20 or 30. But those 20 to 30% matches that I won, it was just a landslide, because there would be a couple times where like Steve's combos at the time, like my buddy Kyle was very good at like picking up on combos and trying to replicate them, and I think he was better at adapting than I was. I couldn't figure out like what the heck was going on. Why was I getting caught by all these combo openers? And it's your boy, and you both want to win, but we didn't understand the growth mindset of, hey, I'm catching you with this move all the time. Maybe sidestep or backstep or do like a parry or something, whatever Tekken, or block a little bit more, block better, or whatever it was for Tekken at the time. And we would just keep all our strategies to ourselves, and there would be no growth. It would just end up being like him winning most of the time. But the couple times that I did win, it was damn near close to perfect, because with Lee, with all these like stances, whenever you change stances with Lee, you would you'd have to like do a little combo, sidestep. You would go into the pose, and then you would have another different combo. And then with the end of that little combo, you could either sidestep, backstep, or like forward step, and it would change into another one. And whenever I did that, I just ran him over into the ground, dude, because he didn't know what the heck I was doing. Like with all the stance changes and shit, I was just dancing around him. But sometimes whenever the combo missed, it was just like, oh shit, I can move my character. Just pop, juggle, start the combo. Let's go it. Let's get it going. But god dang, man, this was a hard ass character to learn. But it was fun, man. It was 100% fun.
13 stances. He has more stances than games have characters,
Yeah.
and someone even made a tier list of them.
Really? Well, this is probably like modern day Tekken. Like, what the fuck is this? This is like his basic stance, which is, I guess, tier. Knockdown. Yep. Remember that stance? Dragon. Yep. Panther. Snake. Play dead. I didn't really mess with that one too much. I guess this is Crane. Phoenix. Drunken. Side stand. Bro, when I was a little kid, I didn't realize that these side stance knockdowns, like face down, knockdown, and like sitting snake. I think this is new. That's why it's D tier. Like Lee back in the day had these like down stances, but I never messed with him, because in my mind, if you're lying on the ground, you have no mobility. So just don't be on the ground. That was the mindset. Like just keep moving, just keep swinging between all these stances.
But it's not as simple as just learning more moves. He also transitions in and out of different stances depending on what attacks he uses and even the direction he moves. People have mapped out extensive flowcharts to help players wrap their heads around what's
Whoa, let me see that.
different stances depending on what attacks he uses and even the direction he moves. People have mapped out extensive flowcharts to help players wrap their heads around.
Bro, what? Play it by user play dead all day. Thank you, man. What? Bro, look at this flowchart. This is a fighting game. Like, what? I don't even think PoE is this complicated, man. Holy shit. Oh my god, go drunken to drunken to drunken, 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 crane, drunk, drunk, fiend, drunk, drunk, back turn. Bro, like this level of complexity, hey, if you main this guy, you deserve a big ass paycheck to be a professional player if you main this guy. Holy shit. This is insane. I'd never have seen a flowchart like this. This is insane.
Around what's essentially a Jackie Chan simulator.
Yeah.
And this is
that's what it was for me. Where is it? Was this the one? I think this was the game that I played. I think back in the day when I was in high school. Oh, that just brings back memories, dude. And this movie was actually fucking goated. Most Jackie Chan movies are.
Simulator. And this is just one character in a game with over 50,
yeah.
Each one having pages and pages of moves.
Yeah, like people like to meme on Tekken being like left punch, right punch, left kick, right kick. But when you have this many setups and moves and shit like that, it's like it goes like there's a scroll bar right here and it's only on 144 of things that you can do. That's how crazy it is, at least for this character. What's his name? Lei?
How can anyone remember all this? Why can't these games just have like 6 characters with a few moves each?
Bro, Tekken is like the PoE of ARPGs or for fighting games. Like the flow. Have you ever seen? I saw this one video. I forgot. I think his name was like Wolfcrone or something like that. And he played Tekken, but he did like this one video, and he tried to. And like this dude was like a new player, and he's like, I'm gonna try to get good, and this pro player is gonna teach me how. And Wolfcrone brought his like 3-ring binder notebook of all the tech that he had just for one character, and he showed him, this is what I study. I made this, and this is what I study. It's got all the frame data, startup, active frames, cooldown, hit stun, so on and so forth, combos from like certain distances, and oh my god, like, bro, the fighting community players, they are built different, some of them, man. It's crazy. But I would really like to see if I could draw any comparisons between the Hone versus Innovate for FPSs or just shooters in general. So I'm gonna try to do that.
Like chess.
It's an entire world of just 64 squares.
In chess, you can quickly learn the rules. There are no DLC pieces that throw air fireballs, and there's only one situation where the hitbox gets wonky.
You move behind the pawn as if it had moved only one square and capture it.
But if you want to get into chess because you hate remembering things, you might be disappointed.
Oh no.
Recognizing positions is how chess players flex.
Yeah, this looks an awful...
Well, of course you're gonna... This is like the best chess player in the world. Of course he memorizes all this shit, dude.
A lot like Tal Botvinnik.
Accessible or not, new players in chess are going to be extremely behind.
Oh yeah.
Do you know about
And I think that's a real problem with most esports games. The longer a game is out, the core audience will inevitably have the skill ceiling just raise over the course of time, the longer a game is out. And what that does is that creates a gigantic skill gap for new players to come into a game and attempt to try to climb, all right? But you could kind of make that argument for real sports, but the lifespan of a real sports player is, I would say, drastically shorter than an esports player. I mean, think of like the NFL, the NBA, NHL. What else? Like the high wig. What do you call it? Like the high tier sports. I mean, you can make an argument for golf. Like a golfer has like a really long lifespan. Because you know you're not getting fucking bombarded by like 300-pound like big hairy men. All right. So from that respect, you probably have a really long lifespan from golf. But what the heck was I even getting at? Yeah. So the longer a sport it goes on and on, the higher the skill ceiling for the tippy top, competitive edge for the top players goes. And for the for the most part, real sports, people can just play real sports and just do it at a casual level. Much the same way that there are pubs and, competitive shooting games, all right? You can just play a game and have fun, all right? As weird as that is to say, you can just play a game and have fun, all right? I know that's weird, but hey, it's possible. But alas, that's some percentage of like whatever community for whatever shooting game. Most of the time, I would guess at least 50% of the players are doing the latter of your favorite shooting game. And the second some sort of competitive bite comes into play and you want to start climbing that ladder, bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond, so on and so forth, that's when you start consuming content. That's when you try to figure out what the meta is. Oh, these are what the pro guys are doing. This is what I got to do, and so on and so forth. But little do you know, the professional people that have been doing it for a long ass time are just the skill gap is so huge. It's not linear. All right, it's not a straight line. It's an exponential curve of skill. All right. And like it'll be linear up into a point, and then it'll just get exponential from like the tippy top, percentage of players. It's ridiculous.
The Sicilian defense. If not, then you have a lot of catching up to do because people knew about that in 1594. In Korean gamer slang, these old games people have gotten really good in are called koinmul games. And its longtime players are koinmul, which literally translates to standing water. The stale water that never moves on, becoming more and more toxic to anything that dares enter it.
Beautiful.
Oh.
The term is used tongue-in-cheek nowadays, but it's there to emphasize how ridiculously good people have gotten.
Dang. Yes, most of the time in any sort of competition where it involves people strive to be like a perfect machine, all right? With their golf swing, with darts, with bowling. If you're a QB, you want to throw that perfect pass every time as though you are a machine. Take all the emotion out of it and just perform. That is the goal. Look at that. What the fuck? What the fuck? Wait a sec.
Ridiculously good people have gotten.
Let me see that again. Bro. What? Look at this. At this point, you're just fossil fuel? And he hits it again. This has to be like a magic trick, dude. This is insane. Oh my god. Bro, dart players are built different, dude.
But this doesn't always stop new people from getting into these games. Chess has been played for centuries.
Fucking Game of Thrones chair.
Brood War has become a national pastime, and new players have come to slay the gods in MVC2 and Melee.
Oh yeah, that's really cool that new players can just come in and reach that level of skill, because I think Hungrybox has been around forever. He's been playing since day one of Melee.
So what is the appeal of these stale water games where everyone is super good, and why do people keep playing them?
And it looks like oh my roundhouse with the game one pop-up.
Well, some people want to practice or study things in a game to get good. For this to be possible, the things to practice or study must be proven to be good, usually by its masters. These established techniques and strategies include footsies, Korean backdash, the Queen's Gambit, Muta Micro, Infinites, or whatever.
Yeah.
Magic creator Richard Garfield.
And in I'm surprised he didn't use any like FPS like examples, because with FPS, the best, I mean, in FPS, like the genre and aim training is still kind of new. The best way I would probably say to get good at FPS, if you're on M&K, is probably pick up an aim trainer. All right, that's gonna be playing an aim trainer alongside with your favorite shooting game. All right, that is probably the fastest route to getting gooder.
Refers to these players as honers. Honers don't care that the Sicilian defense was discovered in the 16th century. They just want to study openers to get better at chess. They don't care that the perfect 9-dart finish has been calculated and achieved. They just want to practice their aim so they can do it themselves one day.
Look, even the dart bros are practicing their aim. All right, M&K FPS bros, start picking up the aim trainers, dog.
But while those two examples are about honing, one is about muscle memory and the other is about
Okay, that's not really a thing in aim training, but let's keep going.
memory. In other words, execution and knowledge. Honers like video games because you get to hone both in unique ways. You can nerd out about the properties of champions and weapons, but also flex your actions per minute or aim.
There you
In
go.
fighting games, a combo requires knowledge of an optimal sequence of buttons and moves, but you need the timing to execute it. Fighting game execution is about precise timing, and this requires practice.
Oh yeah.
But honers don't want to practice or study because repeating something over and over is a good time. They must also gain a meaningful advantage for doing so. This is called leveling up.
Wait, so are honers the grinders? They just practice doing the same things over and over again in order to achieve a level of consistency? Because that's what I think you're kind of getting at.
One of the biggest advantages you can get for honing execution appears in Street Fighter 3.
I think grinding and honing is probably the most consistent. Well, there's a dichotomy I see, because he's going to go into innovation chunk of the video soon. And if you take like a new player and you have them hone in on a game, have them, like this is the good path, versus someone that's brand new, you show them like what let's say like, I don't know, basketball or something. You show them like a couple videos of like how basketball is played, and then maybe they for some reason figure out like a different way to shoot the ball or whatever. There's always going to be that little thing in the back of your mind where it's like, oh, it's been done this way for 1,000 years, but there could be that one person that could come in and just do it differently.
Like most fighting games, Street Fighter 3 has combos that require varying levels of practice to pull off. The idea is, the more practice you put in, the better combos you can do, improving your potential for damage and positioning. If you master the frame-perfect Kara Fukiage input with Makoto, you get to kill most characters with one combo.
Dang.
Games had always given an
Stun.
immense advantage for immensely
combo.
practicing combos. What sets this game apart execution-wise is that there's also a defense.
Bro, doing that shit in competition. So it's like one thing to do it in like the lab, and like get good at doing it in the lab, because there's no pressure. When you do it in competition versus a completely another stranger, it's simply different. All right, it's hard to explain, but shit moves way quicker in competition. Like, you can execute your moves faster, but your opponent, you will perceive your opponent to moving quicker than you're like used to, like just chilling at home, so much as to say that your opponent isn't like a top tier fighting game competitor. All right.
Defensive system like this, the infamous universal parry mechanic. As intimidating as it sounds, the input is extremely simple. Just tap forward right before you get hit, or down if it's a low hit. Works in the air too, where blocking doesn't. Of course, the timing is a bit strict. If you mess up,
Oh, yeah.
you just get hit.
Bro, I just suck ass at parries in this game. Like my two other buddies, John and Kyle, they played this shit to no end. Like back in the day when it was out on Dreamcast, and they had those obnoxious D-pad buttons where they were just so thick and sharp, and there was so much depth to them. Like you're just sitting there doing dragon punches and fucking fireball motions, and you're just making a disgusting callus on your fucking thumb. And they were good at it, and I sucked. And I was like, this is painful. And they're like, yeah, I'm still whooping your ass though. And I'm like, God damn it.
Thankfully, Third Strike has a bonus stage to help you practice parries, which gradually gets harder. But like most games, you can also just hold back the block, which requires no timing at all. The problem is, parrying has so many benefits. You never take damage, you hold your ground, and it increases the chances of a guaranteed punish. So how good can you get at parrying?
Training. Yep, you gotta parry every single move to figure out the timings. That's disgusting.
Theoretically, you could parry every hit and become strike invincible. The more practice you put in, the more you can parry.
That's disgusting.
But what makes this so honeable is that there are so many levels. Chun's
Yeah.
super art here requires 15 timed inputs to do a full parry. That's 15 places to potentially mess up,
Oh, yeah.
15 levels you need to beat to be successful. With hold back to block, there is only one level. You can start to see why Third Strike has a hip-hop soundtrack. You must practice the rhythm of your opponent's attacks to level up your parrying.
Getting too good.
The journey to mastery is long and seemingly endless, but
Yeah.
for the Honer, a long journey just means more to level up,
Yeah.
more advantage to gain, and more milestones to achieve.
This is a large barrier that I would say most people don't want to go through. All right, and that's a huge speed bump for the health of a game. To just, play a game, choose it, and it's like, oh, this is my favorite game. I'm gonna grind it all the time. And that's just a thing that happens, man. And it's just a big speed bump.
And the payoff for reaching a goal is reflected by how much practice it took to get there. Level up enough and you might become a god and do something godlike.
Oh my god. Bro, it's actually crazy to think that tennis players can do shit like that. Because anytime I see a tennis player, they're just like whipping that shit over the net, and I don't really pay attention to like the accuracy of it. But to see like a top professional like just knock a can off someone's head, it's like, oh, he's that good. Okay.
Community recognition is a huge motivator for the Honer. But in Third Strike, there's an even harder parry called the red parry. A red parry is when you do a parry even while in blocking animation, but the timing window is only 2 frames or 1/30th of a second.
Oh yeah, this is like so ridiculous. This is like, you need like some sort of like a tool assisted system to like do this shit consistently, man. The red parry is just too goated.
Which is 5 times stricter than a standard parry, and you still get hit if you mess it up.
Like even 1%, like the top 1% of players can't even do that, like the red parries consistently.
What's insane about red parry is that it wasn't some weird exploit players figured out, but a purposefully designed mechanic in a mainstream gaming franchise.
Going for the setup. Is it enough? Is it enough? He parried! MOV! Got it!
Yeah, it's like he hit the red parry right there, but he only hit it once.
So the question is, can you give players too much of an advantage for practicing execution? Yoshinori Ono thought so. He didn't think the parry system in Street Fighter III was bad, but he says when it practically becomes a requirement for entry and you cannot compete on any level unless you master such difficult, precise inputs, then that's where I feel like we restricted ourselves to only an extremely core community.
Well, okay, when it becomes a requirement for entry, so this is an issue. Like guys, this is the same issue that I mentioned before. The longer a game is out, the better the players will just become. And So let's say the game comes out on day one. Maybe there's going to be some sort of meta on day one. And then, as content comes out, videos come out. It's like, oh, this is the meta. This is the meta. You got to do this. You're supposed to chicken block. You're supposed to push block. You're supposed to crouch block. You're supposed to like parry. And then you go, oh, you got the red parries. And then the better the players, the core players get, the higher the skill ceiling goes. Like I said before. And, the life cycle of a game, on day one, it'll spike up real high. It's like, oh, new game, new awesomeness. And then over time, just a game will just peter out. And that's the life cycle of it. And the thing that keeps the game going is that core audience. And eventually, the core audience, the skill of the core audience, it'll be like linear at first, linear. And then eventually, sometimes, it'll get a little exponential. And then when you're in like the last year or maybe 2 years, 3 years, however long the game is out and it's still kicking, the people that are still keeping that game alive are only insanely good players because they enjoy the mechanics. So when a new player comes along and they want to try out the game because, oh, it's a new game. They want to try it out and there's only like just straight killers playing the game. Well, it's like, well, this fucking sucks. I'm not going to play this game. And then that's where it's really tough for a game to, withstand or try to gain some sort of growth in its later years.
While the commercial failure of Street Fighter III can be attributed to many different things, Capcom had no interest in continuing the series any further. This led Ono to consider making the fourth Street Fighter game turn-based, effectively eliminating execution entirely and becoming an actual Street Fighter game with no footsies. Thankfully,
oh my god,
that didn't happen, but I get it.
Bro, I could not imagine Street Fighter becoming turn-based. Like a numbered Street Fighter. This is like the official, we want this for this game. To take that and to take a regular fighting game where you have like free movement, you could jump up, you could jump, super jump, forward, backward, every which way, and then to turn it into like a turn-based thing, that just sounds disgusting. And I don't even play fighting games that much anymore. That just sounds horrible.
We can't have people getting too good by practicing execution.
All right, so when he says something like that, that just means that he wants to protect the new player from like the clutches of the no-life player, all right? And when there's something like I have never seen a like a casual game have a very long lifespan. Well, actually, yes, I can. You could argue that Super Smash Melee is one of those fighting games where it falls into the category of easy to learn, hard to master. And that's why Melee has been kicking for 20-something years or whatever. And because when you first pick up the game, it's like, oh, I got this GameCube controller. I can wheel the stick around. The movement feels pretty good. And I got this like the A moves, and I got the B moves, and I got the C stick, and so on and so forth. And it's like, oh, could you imagine Melee being turn-based? Literally, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. All right? And if I were to try to think about it in terms of FPS, like let me think of what's a good casual FPS? Like if I see, that's just the thing. Like if I were to think about some sort of competitive FPS, I can't really think of like a casual FPS, which is really weird. All right, fighting, like, and to some degree you can say the same thing about like fighting games because it's a 1v1 and there's, some level of randomness and some level of skill that's going to be involved, but I just have simply never seen a competitive shooter that hasn't been taken by the developers into, or the developers didn't want their FPS to become an esport. All right, every FPS that essentially has came out, and there's probably a couple outliers, has probably been like pushed into the esport area by the developers, because you need to push, in their mind, you need to push the game into the esport area in order for it to thrive over a long period of time, it seems. Look at what is it, Counter-Strike, look at Valorant, look at Fortnite. Well, actually, Fortnite, maybe on Fortnite on day one probably wasn't that competitive, but over time it got to that tournament level, and there was like professional Fortnite players. So probably that game, I think. But outside of that, Halo has always been competitive. What else? I think Apex Legends has always been competitive since day one. Rainbow Six Siege, Quake, all been very competitive from day one. There's been very little amount of randomness for those games. I mean, there is some, but it's more skill in those games.
But what about getting too good by studying knowledge? Lei and his 13 stance flowchart isn't going to study itself, and many modern fighters give you a huge advantage for understanding frame data. Even simple fighters give an upper hand to those who study these numbers. And the difference between knowing and not knowing is often a matter of life and death.
Oh yeah.
So, can players get too much of an advantage for studying a game? Chess Grandmaster Bobby Fischer thought so.
I've come along pretty late in chess. Chess has been played hundreds of years, so there isn't really that much left that's radically new.
Dang.
He criticized chess for requiring too much memorization, describing top chess players as having thick glasses looking at computer screens all day.
Beautiful.
Fischer went on to make a new variation of chess where the starting position of the back row pieces will be randomized each game. Black's pieces always mirror white's to keep it fair, and this results in 960 possible starting positions, hence the name Chess 960. This fresher version of chess allows chess honers' skills to still be relevant by keeping the same pieces and abilities, but the new starting positions provide something for people who are tired of honing and want to come up with new strategies. In other words, innovate.
The innovator.
Innovators are players who want to figure out new strategies in a new game. In the purest sense, they want to keep finding solutions to use.
Oh, fucking Fall Guys. Of course it would be Fall Guys, the most casual of casual games. On like week 1, month 1, there were fucking son of a bitches touting that, oh, I got 1,000 wins. I'm fucking goated at this game and blah blah blah. It's like, it's a casual game. There's no shooting in it. There's no, like, what other esports are there? There's no like shooting abilities, like in League of Legends or anything like that. It's simply just physics. You're just moving a character around. You're grabbing something. The fact that people would consider themselves professional Fall Guys is hilarious to me.
Unique problems. But once practice and study are required, they will find it a chore and either move on to another game or change the rules. Before your scrub alarm goes off, realize you have likely played games with house rules or made some yourself.
Yeah.
Does anyone actually play Monopoly by its official rules?
I don't know.
But while
Maybe?
you and your friends can easily change rules within yourselves, it's much harder in a coded game with a competitive community. This is where balance patches, new characters, and new iterations of the game come in to make more room to innovate.
Yeah.
More viable matchups and new mechanics means more strategies to come up with. While a pure honer might not want any patches or new characters,
Yeah.
it seems to be a much better pill to swallow if the new version doesn't severely devalue their acquired skills. But change the game too much and too often, and it becomes something the honer did not sign up for.
Dang.
As a matter of fact, in speedrunning, one of the honingest activities ever, the game's rules must remain the same if beating a record by a few seconds is to matter. In this sense, there is a lot of crossover between Koinmul FGC and the speedrunning community. The same token, a game meant for pure innovators might need to be difficult to hone or unhonable. You'll notice a lot of innovator games will often change the rules by changing the game. But when someone finds a way to hone it anyways, the game becomes something the innovator did not sign up for.
This game has been out for like, what, a week? Just 1 week, and people are this try hard.
Yeah.
Party game.
You're welcome, Giuna. But just because a game starts to require practice doesn't mean there's nothing more to innovate. It just means you have to practice or study to get to the innovating part. Bobby Fischer is often cited for his bold and creative plays, but he was also studying chess 14 hours a day. But being able to hone and innovate is how you become a champion.
Dang.
The problem with Koimura games is that the only people innovating are the ones that have already done a ton of honing.
Yeah. You have to understand the rule set first in your favorite game in order to figure out where gaps are and there are possibilities to innovate. One example I can use that I know of and I saw was, I think it was in Apex. There was like an Apex Legends tournament some time ago, and at the time, a lot of teams were running this composition of, it was like Wraith, Bloodhound, Gibby, and some variants of that. But there was this other team, and I think it was Team Furia, where they ran, I forgot exactly what they ran, but it was something like 2 characters, and then they had Seer. And at the time, nobody played Seer. You know, he was a character where you could hold like you put your gun away, you aim down sight, and it just showed you if enemies were in your little cone. And at the time, it was like the scan meta of using an ability to try to see where your enemies are through walls. And at the time, Seer had 2 wall hack abilities. You know, he had his like basic passive where, you know, like I just said, he puts his ability away and he can kind of scan. And so then you come to your teammates like, oh, there's a guy around the corner. And then he had another ability where if you engage in a team fight, then you throw down your ultimate and you could see players' footsteps around rocks, around walls. And as long as you were in that dome and you were moving around, they can see you. And literally no one thought that was valuable, because as a professional, you're supposed to kind of know where enemies are at all times. But this one tournament, Team Furia just rocked the house with Seer. And after that tournament, everybody was playing Seer. And it was crazy, man.
Not everyone gets to show Leffen a thing or two about Melee.
So Leffen, you can suck my fat...
Make everyone happy.
For the better or worse, fighting games have a reputation of being a honer's genre because from the start, it's extremely obvious that there's a lot to practice and a lot to study. I mean, these games have training modes. So the question for devs making modern fighting games is...
So the thing with that is, in shooting games, I kind of sense, and this is just a feeling, that developers are hesitant to put in a training mode in their game because when you put a training mode in your game, you inevitably just speed up the process of letting players get good quick. And, you know, let's say your game doesn't have a training mode, but it's really competitive. So the only time you get to practice is when you're actually playing the game. When you don't have a training mode in there, you stretch that process out and it takes longer for a player to get good. And so the longer it takes for a player to get good, you can have a more consistent trickle in of newer players. So your game doesn't die off a cliff, you know, after a month or 2. But when you put a training mode in, it shortens that process and it makes everybody really good really quick. And if a new player wants to come in and they have to verse all these guys that are like really good, then, you know, then they realize, oh, I'm supposed to go into the training mode and practice shooting? What? I'm not doing that. I'm not playing this game. I'm uninstalling. Fuck this. That's the mindset, all right? It turns away newer players. So that's why, you know, there hasn't been a lot of big innovations in the shooting genre in the last couple of years, besides BRs. But BRs have been running amok for like the last 5-10 years or something like that.
How do we get players to the innovating part faster? One approach is to provide excellent study materials, but this doesn't eliminate the need to study. You can remove or eliminate things that require practice, But honers will have less to hone, and innovator types will get steamrolled anyways because you
Dive
can't
kick.
remove honed legacy skills like footsies unless you go turn-based. There is surely a right balance to strike when making these games, but can you satisfy the pure honer and the pure innovator in the same game? 1v1 Brood War is one of the most honed coin wheel games out there.
No!
There hasn't been a balance patch for decades, but there is use map settings that allow innovator types to create maps that change the rules.
Oh.
Players have created infinite...
What, just like custom match or whatever? No, that's fine. The issue with that is people are going to play, if your game's competitive, people are only going to play either the casual, like there's going to be some percentage of people that play like the casual modes. And then the moment you jump in and you get that competitive bite, you're going to figure out what matches the tournaments are ran at, and you just run that type of match. All right? It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how much you like Griffball in Halo. There's no competitive matches playing Griffball, okay? It's fine for like some fun once in a while, but you know, after that it's like, oh, I play a match or two, okay, I had fun, and then okay, back to grinding.
Infinite resource maps, Zergling only modes, and even this weird Metal Slug map, which is kind of insane that someone made that.
Oh, that's funny. Bro, that's
Some
pretty
have
cool.
even gotten good in these variations, forming entire communities and tournaments around them. To try hard, just jump into a new map with new rules. The point is, people can play these games while still existing in the larger StarCraft ecosystem, and without affecting the main 1v1 game, which has become a honer's paradise now.
Oh, okay, they each have a little dude that they're running around. Oh, this is great!
You know what it kind of seems like? It kind of seems like, what do you call it? The card game, the Magic the Gathering. There is the tournament mode, which is, I think, modern standard or something. Maybe I might be fucking up the words. And then like that's the tournament mode where it's like the hardcore statistics and like chance and playing your cards in the correct way with so on and so forth. And then there's literally everything else that's not modern standard. There's Commander. There's that one game mode where you choose, like, you got a bunch of booster packs and everyone's just like picking them, and like you pick a card and then you pass it, and you pick another card and pass it. There's that mode. And then yeah, I mean, you can play matches and games with cards from sets like 5-10 years ago, and it's still fun. So I think it's something like that as well.
It's become a sort of StarCraft gaming platform. Smash also has very flexible rule shaping.
Oh yeah,
but players
turn the fucking items on once in a while to just mix it up. It doesn't always have to be 1v1 Final Destination. No items.
Went the opposite way and turned an Innovators game into a very honeable version. And of course, poker has tons of variations, competitive and even single player. But some developers have directly embraced practice and made games to awaken our inner honer with great success.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes, it's a little scary to become a honing type of person where you just go and do the same thing over and over again. But like there's nothing that says that a honing type mentality is either good or bad. That's the thing. But if you never engage of it because you're just afraid, like maybe you might like it. All right, just try it out. You know, he mentioned the Demon Souls, Dark Souls. That's a very trial and error type of game genre. And I'm kind of new to it, and I'm liking it so far.
Hidetaka Miyazaki had to keep this a secret from the marketing department to get his game made. But some Honer games hide its true colors by its very design. What's actually really beautiful about chess is that its honing aspect is hidden to people with no interest studying it. This quiet game that has sat in over 100 million homes has been honed for longer than we've been alive, and will be honed after we're not. This was Gerald from Corey Gaming. Thanks for watching.
Nice.
This video was sponsored by Brook Gaming. Brook makes gaming peripherals like the Universal Fighting Board, which lets you use your fight stick on all sorts of different consoles. It's tournament legal and has very low latency, which is why it's a choice of many pros. I've been using mine for years before Brook approached me to do this video, and it's helped me at tournaments where I foolishly signed up for more than 5 games. They recently made an add-on called the Up 5 that allows you to play on the PS5. It's really nice to be able to just bring one controller to a tournament and play pretty much anything. Apparently, this thing even lets me play on the Mega Drive Mini. See me in
Dang.
Eternal Champions. Thanks to Brook for the sponsor assist, and make sure to check out their products in more detail at brookaccessory.com. See description for links.
That's pretty
Thanks
cool.
to Brook and everyone for the support. See you in the next video.
Huh. That was a good video. I like that. And I'm 2 years on a little late. But god dang, the Honer versus the Innovator. That is a good thought just to have those two different mindsets. And it is one that I still think will be another question that we can ask in the future for the future of esports and things to come. So yeah, I mean, all in all, that's a great video, man. Congrats. I love watching it. But other than that, that's pretty much it. All right. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right. Later.